call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody. For attendance, we have all our trustees present, including our 2 student trustees. I have remarks that I'm going to make at 7 o'clock, but just for those who might be tuning in for the first time to our live stream, not much happens at 5 o'clock. It takes us a minute to approve the agenda and then to convene into our private session meeting. And then we come back at 7 o'clock for the actual work of the board according to their agenda. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Trustee Buckler, I can take the motion. Trustee Buckler, and seconded by Trustee Cook. And a question, Trustee McKinley?
Wanted to defer the, where is it? The new business, L1. I'd like to defer that motion till next month. The 3rd Tuesday, when we have our next full meeting of the board.
So I'm just going to say that we're trying very carefully to pace our board meetings and our agendas. And so maybe you could explain why you need it deferred?
Well, I wanted actually to do some more research. And I also wanted to look at our employment systems review fully before. And that way I'm fully prepared. So I didn't know, or I would have, sorry, I meant to tell you in advance. So, right, we did just get the employment systems review, so therefore, that's why I'm wanting to take a little time to read it first. It's just a simple motion to defer, if I've got someone that'll second it.
Motion to defer, supported by Trustee Leclerc. All those in support? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Trustee Burgess?
Thanks, ma'am. At the approval of the agenda, do we have anybody on the speakers list?
I don't know right now because they have till 7 o'clock, so I don't have the list yet. I think it's 7 o'clock or 6:45. Yeah, 6:45. Anything else on the motion to approve the agenda? All those in support? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. A motion to convene to private session. Trustee Cook, Trustee Leclerc, all those in support? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We're now going. Everyone, I'm going to call the public meeting back in session. Trustee Sipcar will be here in a second. Trustee Cook is right there. I just would like to explain for those who might not be familiar with how our public meeting goes. We open the meeting at 5 o'clock. Takes about 2 minutes where we have a motion to approve the agenda and then a motion to convene into private session. So for those who are interested, there was a motion to defer item L1 under new business. It was moved, seconded, and it was passed that would be deferred to the October board meeting. And then there was another motion that was approved to approve the agenda as amended with L1 moving to October. So that's what happened at 5 o'clock. That's typically what happens, and it just takes a couple minutes, and then we move into our private session meeting. And then when that's over, we come back. We try to be back in by 7 o'clock to reconvene our public meeting. Is Trustee Sipcar there? Yeah, I can't see her. There she is. Okay. So now that we're all back, I'm going to call on Trustee Nelson to read for us the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We acknowledge that we are on land and surrounded by water originally inhabited by Indigenous people who have traveled this area since time immemorial. This territory is within lands honored by the Wampum Treaties, agreements between the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and allied nations to peacefully share and care for resources around the Great Lakes. Specifically, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the three fire confederacies, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi, and Huron-Wendat peoples. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture while remaining committed to moving forward respectfully with all First Nations, Innu, and Métis.
Thank you very much, Trustee Nelson. Unfortunately, at this point, we do have two special orders of the day, and I'm going to call on the director to present those.
If I could ask that everybody please stand. So a tribute to Irene Taylor. Irene always saw the best in everyone and never judged anyone. She was funny, shy, loving, but hated to be hugged. She was a wonderful friend. Irene always wanted the best for everybody. She fought the battles for her daughters, her students, and her colleagues. Sometimes, though, Irene didn't stand up for herself because she always tried to make people happy. She never wanted anyone to worry about her and always tried to protect others' feelings. Irene had a tremendous impact on the students and the staff at Riverside Secondary School. The community will miss her kindness, her smile, and her positivity. She endured her illness with great dignity and strength and had hopes for her future. She deserved a happy future, and everybody who loved her wanted that for her. Many of the staff had the privilege of calling her not only a colleague, but their friend, and will never forget her. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor the memory of our colleague, Irene. Thank you. And also a tribute to Janet Pundik. Janet passed away on August 13th of this year. She was a true inspiration to the thousands of students that she taught. She started her career in adult education for the Greater Essex County District School Board in 1991, and she stayed there until her passing this summer at the age of 69. Her students would say that Janet was not just a great teacher for them. She was a mentor and a guide to generations. Her commitment to education went far beyond the classroom. She had an unwavering dedication to her students that extended long after the school day was done, helping them not only with academic pursuit, but also in attaining employment, healthcare, mental health supports, housing, and food security. Countless young people with every imaginable learning challenge found confidence in Janet's class and were able to complete their academic goals. Beyond her professional life, Janet was a devoted wife, parent, sister, grandmother, and a friend, and she embodied the same kindness, dedication, and love that she shared with her students. Her home, like her classroom, was a haven of warmth, laughter, and lifelong learning. She will be remembered for the profound impact that she had with the establishment of an annual award for students moving from the literacy basic skills to the school within a college program, and by carrying forward the lessons that she taught about leading always with kindness, about being compassionate, and about being resilient, and by continuing to pursue knowledge and excellence in all that we do. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor the memory of our colleague, Janet. Thank you, and please be seated.
Thank you. On behalf of the trustees, our heartfelt sympathy to the families of Irene and Janet. I'd just like to take a minute to welcome some new people to our boardroom tonight. First, I would like to welcome our two new student trustees, Colin, representing the county, and Sarim, representing the city students. Welcome to our boardroom. I've had a chance to spend some time with Colin, and I'm sure his partner is just as excited and anxious to begin their role as student trustees. And I've also offered to help in any way I can. They just need to reach out. And I told them not to be shy. If they are procedurally confused at all or have any questions, they can at any time put up their hand and I'll help them in whatever way I can. So welcome to both of you to the new school year. I'm sure you'll have a good time. I hope you'll have a good time in the next year. I'd also like to mention that we have two new superintendents of education this school year. One is with us tonight, so welcome to Raquel Roberts. Welcome to our boardroom. And I'm hoping that maybe at the next board meeting, we'll be able to introduce you all to Joe Bell. But anyway, welcome very much. And lastly, we have a new partner sitting up here at the head of the room, and I'd like to give a very warm welcome to Director Vicki Houston. Yes. I'm not going to make a speech about the director, but you know, we did put out an announcement when she was selected as director, and she brings to her position 25 years of experience throughout our system that I'm sure will serve the board well, and we look forward to working with her over these next 5 years. Yes, welcome. Now back to the agenda. Declaration of conflict of interest. Do we have any for this meeting? Seeing none. Actions from our private session meeting. I'll look to Trustee Cook for that.
Thank you. So under new business, I'm just going to put them all together if everybody's okay. So we have F1, F2, and F3. Can I have a mover? Trustee Leclerc, Trustee Sipcar is a seconder. And all in favor? Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next is the approval of minutes, and we have 4 sets from June 20th, 2 sets from June 20th, June 27th, and September 11th. Trustee Burgess?
Ma'am, if, I don't know if everybody wants to put them together, but G3 I would just like taken out for a comment.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion for the minutes, and then you could have your comment. So motion, Trustee Buckler for all 4, and Trustee Leclerc, all 4. Okay, your question?
So I was giving you heads up that G3 I wouldn't be in support of right now, G3. So if we could take that out of, I would like to be able to support G1, 2, and 4 when we get to G3.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to amend.
Well,
We could do 1, 2, and 4. Are we okay with that? Okay. So all those in support of 1, 2, and 4. That's carried. All those in support of G3? Oh, a motion, sorry. A mover for G3, right? Yeah, Trustee Leclerc, Trustee Buckler, and you had a question on G3. Trustee Burgess.
thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to note in the live stream would demonstrate that I noted that I didn't have simultaneous oral communication, AURAL, during that meeting, as the audio connection was really very poor. I don't feel like I hardly attended it. I was unable to sufficiently interact in real time, and the live stream will show that. And I did declare it at the time in the meeting, and I did hear myself say that. That was captured. So I would like the minutes to reflect the fact that I did not, I felt my right as a trustee was kind of inhibited because I couldn't participate. I couldn't hear or what was being said. And the live stream hasn't been changed. That's very apparent.
So the minutes aren't a transcript. I understand that you have that concern.
Madam Chair, under Roberts, every
So-
trustee is guaranteed simultaneous
you-
oral communication
you could
if it's
make-
an electronic meeting, and I think that we didn't
So if you
provide that.
want to amend the minutes, could you please make that motion to amend?
I would make a motion to amend under attendance. Trustee Burgess attended, but she noted she did not have simultaneous oral communication as the meeting audio connection was very poor.
Okay. Oh, support for the amendment, trustee Leclerc. All those in support of the amendment? That's carried. Motion to approve now the amended, trustee Leclerc, trustee Buckler, all those in support as amended, that's carried. Thank you. Okay. We have two presentations. First one, trustee years of service. I don't know who's doing this. Oh, the director? The director? Pardon? Oh, sorry. Item H, business arising from the minutes at the bottom of the page. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Sorry, I missed that at the bottom. Okay. Presentations. That's the director, okay.
Thank you. So tonight we have our Longstanding Service Award, and the Greater Essex County District School Board Service Recognition Award Program is one way that we express our pride in the spirit and resolve of our GECDSB family. We acknowledge and reward longstanding service of employees and trustees to celebrate their commitment to public education. Those who have achieved the milestones of longstanding service with the Greater Essex County District School Board and its predecessor boards are presented with pins that depict our logo, two figures working together, reaching for a star. Bronze for 10 years, silver for following 20 years, and gold after 30 years, and after 40 years, a gold pin embellished with a diamond. This evening, I have great pleasure to honor Chair Gail Simcoe Hatfield with her gold pin for her distinguished 30-plus years of service to education with the Greater Essex County District School Board and previously with the Windsor Board of Education. Gail represents City of Windsor Wards 5, 6, 7, and 8 and is currently the chair of the board. She has been elected by her colleagues 10 times to serve in that role and 2 other times as the board's vice chair. Congratulations to Chair Hatfield, and on behalf of everybody on our board and the communities we serve, we thank you for your commitment and your dedication to public education in Windsor and in Essex County. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You are more than welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't get a pension. 30 years, I don't get a pension. This is an honor. Just a minute. Got it? Got it. That's why I didn't know what you were doing under that item. You told me. Okay. There. I'll wear it proudly. Thank you very much. Now, student trustee presentations. Do we have something, Colin? Okay.
Good evening, trustees, senior administration, and Director Houston. Happy September. Last Tuesday, Student Senate held our September meeting at the board office. Senators became acquainted with each other and discussed goals for the school year. We were honored to have Director Houston share her back-to-school plan with us. She asked about the most pressing issues at our schools, which left us feeling hopeful about the new start. Senators shared school news, including the startups of sports teams such as basketball, cross country, tennis, volleyball, football, golf, and cheerleading. Clubs have also started up in full swing, including robotics, art, GSA, drama, yearbook, DECA, debate, breakfast program, and science Olympiad. Student councils have been diligently planning for Fall Spirit Weeks and Terry Fox Days. Student council grade representatives elections are underway to ensure representation for all secondary students. Seniors were able to attend Senior Sunrise at Sandwich and Riverside, a unique experience to mark their last year of secondary school. Kingsville District High School and Leamington District Secondary School are going to continue their collaborative student council efforts and have begun brainstorming and team building for this year. Earlier last week, student trustees met with Director Houston, who gave an update on board initiatives and her back-to-school plan. I was grateful for the opportunity to meet the director as I move into my new role. Chairperson Hatfield met with us as well and welcomed us to our new roles tonight, encouraging us to make the most of our positions and advocate for student voice. Sarum and I very appreciative of Michelle Marcus, Director Houston, and Chairperson Hatfield for their guidance and support in our new positions. And we would also like to welcome back all the students of the GECDSB and wish them the best in the new school year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't start yet with this? We do, okay. So we'll continue.
Through you, Madam Chair, I will now read the Student of the Month nomination. The Student of the Month for September is Zoe Toes, a grade 11 student at Kingsville District High School. Zoe is an outstanding role model for this month's theme of athleticism. Zoe is a gifted athlete who is extremely passionate about the sports she competes in. Last year, Zoe participated in as many sports as she could, no matter which team she is on. Zoe's positivity lifts the team's spirits. It is very fitting that Zoe is also the Minister of Spirit at KDHS. As a result of Zoe's personal hard work and dedication, her individual sports accomplishments include a first-place finish in javelin at the OFSA West Regionals, throwing 30 meters, breaking the KDHS school record, and a second-place finish at OFSA swimming. Zoe was a member of Kingsville's softball team, which made it to OFSA, and a member of KDHS basketball team, which won WEXA and SWASA. Outside of school athletics, Zoe is a member of South County Bandits Volleyball, a Windsor-based travel team. Zoe is an exceptional teammate who demonstrates amazing sportsmanship. She consistently finds ways to bring smiles to her teammates' faces and maintains a positive attitude. She encourages her fellow students to find their athletic passion and get involved. Congratulations, Zoe, for being selected by Student Senate as the September Student of the Month.
Zoe. Zoe, come on up front. Congratulations, Zoe, and we're glad that you were able to join us tonight for the presentation. Congratulations. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't want to. You're excused. Yeah. Congratulations. Okay. Item J, there were no delegations at the time that the agenda was prepared. Speakers list, we have one name. is it, forgive me if I don't pronounce it correctly, is it Dali? Is that, I'm not sure. Is that,
Antoine Dailly.
okay? And you're here to speak about public access, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to extend my congratulations to all those honorees today. I'm appearing here today as a member of the public with some concerns as to a notice posted on the board's website. It was there, the printed copy I have is from 3:58 p.m. today, and to the best of my understanding, it is still on the website. It states that effective immediately, June 14th, 2023, and until further notice, in-person attendance at meetings of the Board of Trustees will be limited to staff and trustees. It goes on to say that all meetings will remain available to the public via the live stream feed on YouTube, a link to which is posted on the website before each board meeting. All speakers and delegations will join the meeting by telephone. It goes on to say that this is a decision of the Board of Trustees to allow for the orderly and expeditious completion of regular business meetings in a safe and secure setting for staff and members of the board. The Greater Essex County District School Board's board meetings can be watched on YouTube. The concerns I have with respect to this is that it does not appear, first of all, by the attendance today of the public to be true. And secondly, it appears to run contrary to law. Under the bylaws of this board, I wish to bring to the attention of the Director of Education, under his authority, under Article 6:10, subsection C of the bylaws, together with the chairperson, Section 5, sub I, that there may potentially be, although well-intentioned, a violation of regulations to the Education Act. It is unclear to me, based on a review of that notice that's posted on the website, whether or not that is the policy referred to under Section 2.1 of the Ontario Regulation 46397. That provision states that every board shall develop and implement a policy providing for the use of electronic means for the holding of meetings of a board and meetings of a committee of a board, including a committee of the whole board. Section 2, sub 2 says that the policy shall be in accordance with this regulation. Of note is that currently it appears that the method for virtual or digital or electronic access is by YouTube. Unfortunately, that appears to be a one-way communication. Section 4, sub 2 states that the policy to be implemented by the board shall provide members of the public with electronic means for participating in meetings and shall provide for the extent and manner of the electronic participation. Goes on to say that the electronic means required by paragraph 1 shall permit members of the public to hear and be heard by all other participants in the meeting. This regulation goes on to say in section 6, sub 1, that the meeting room of the board or of a committee of the board, as the case may be, shall be open to permit physical attendance by members of the public at every meeting of the board or of the committee of the board. And there's an exception provided for where a portion of the meeting is closed to the public in accordance with the Act, and according to today's agenda, that would have solely have been section D. The current status of the policy is not readily apparent to members of the public by viewing the website. And of course, I trust that this board would not intentionally publish information to discourage attendance. And furthermore, that should a notice on its website run contrary to law, that it be immediately removed and that the proper policy be published in its stead. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Are there any questions for clarification from the trustees? No? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation. Item L1 was deferred to the October meeting, so now we're under reports to be received. Item M1 is a report of the Director of Education. This is the 22-23 operational plan of the board to present the current status of all the goals that we set out. And next year, the director will be presenting it on behalf of the accomplishments that she will be leading during the 2023-24 school year. So with that, I'll let you begin your report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. So it's my pleasure to present my first director's report on items of interest and of importance to our board and what has been happening throughout the district. So since we last met in a full public session, many provisions through the Better Schools and Student Outcomes Act, Bill 98, which received royal assent in June, have come into effect already. The Ontario government's stated purpose in passing this legislation is to help strengthen accountability, lift standards and student outcomes in schools, and to focus the system on boosting fundamental skills. Practically, what this means for us at a board level is renewing and enhancing core principles of instruction, reporting, and communication. The Ministry of Education is emphasizing further development of reading, writing, and math skills for students, with guidelines for regular curriculum review by experts in pedagogy and labor market needs. Hands-on learning with an accelerated apprenticeship pathway that helps students enter our skilled trades faster, and strengthening the voice of parents through increased awareness of information on staff professional activity agendas, minimum levels and timing of sharing parent-friendly information, and standard protocols for responses to inquiries from parents and from families. In Bill 98, there is also new requirements for performance appraisals for directors of education, for maximizing our capital assets, working with our municipalities on planning for schools and for childcare centers, design specifications for our capital projects, creating permanent pathways for eligible teacher candidates to work while still in Teachers College, to finish their school through a transitional certificate, and handling of trustees' codes of conduct complaints. This is transformative legislation and quite significant, with robust changes to some of our current practices at GECDSB. There's a great deal involved with the new act, and we're implementing the articles as efficiently as we can, but much of it will be an ongoing process for us. I'll continue to keep you apprised of the work that we are doing. And as the Director of Education and as an educator, I embrace anything that ultimately is intended to improve student outcomes, and I welcome advice and assistance in making that happen within our board. So a lot has already been happening and over the summer months, and that we actually just started school on September the 5th. So our annual summer learning camp was another great success. Camp Nia and Camp Makeka was a new addition offering for our Black students. The camps taught students about past and present day contributions of Black people in consultation with local expertise and our communities. They also focused on identifying, combating, and healing from an anti-Black racism, infusing positive and affirming messages about Blackness, Black communities, and Black peoples, and making explicit connections that support Black students, self-love, well-being, and achievement. Also this summer, the Student Success G project supported students by building confidence and developing skills while earning community service hours. Activities centered on maintaining a community garden and sustainable artistic expressions for general beautification. I had the tremendous pleasure of being on hand on the first day of school at our new Eastview Horizon Public School. Lots of enthusiasm, not just for getting back to class, but for our brand new building. It was great to have so many parents with us on our first day, and we're just in the process of staging a full celebration of completion later this fall, so look forward to an invitation to that. And then everywhere else in the system, we got right down to work. We've got lots to do and only 194 instructional days to do it. It was great to see our community volunteers and our community partners jumping right back in on the very first week of school. At James L. Dunn, Mr. Mooney was helping with breakfast and snack programs, dishing out bagels, fruit, vegetables, and cheese, which was provided by Tim Hortons, Pure Flavor, and President's Choice. While that was all happening, our kindergarten staff were very busy, engaged in some professional development and getting prepared to welcome our little ones for their very first day of school, which was on September the 11th. We had many enthusiastic new students lining up for the opportunity to learn. And the first day of school is always a very special one for everyone, with many great things to look forward to. And there are just some upcoming. On September the 22nd, we have our first professional development day for both our elementary and secondary panel, and we're already in compliance with Bill 98 and have that posted on our public board website. And now we'll just go into some really quick, what you have in your package of the operational plan, aligned to our strategic priorities. And I will say I'm very proud of the work that we did this past year on the operational plan. As you know, we experienced some changes in our senior team, but that didn't take us away from the work that needed to be done, and we continue to stay focused and committed to the work. So a few highlights, and you'll note that in some of the sections that we do not have EQAO data yet, so some of those areas are still left blank. But we did have a mindful classroom that was an 8-week project, and it was a pilot with weekly visits to the same classroom in 11 designated schools over the duration of those weeks. So we had 10 schools participating and 56 teachers, 1,315 students from all grade levels, and the results were very positive for that. In kindergarten and primary, students had targeted reading supports, and marker students were selected from kindergarten to grade 2, and they were assessed, monitored around their progress by a pre and a post assessment in 10 of our identified schools, and 97% of the sample students working with intervention teachers demonstrated a growth. And then we also had the implementation of a Ministry of Education pilot project to increase student engagement, prevent learning gaps in math for our junior students that have special education needs or students identified as struggling in math, and providing supports for those students to transition into the de-streamed grade 9 math. And you'll see that the teachers supporting the program through a blended model had students with the highest gains and usage rates. We also implemented the African Studies course in 2 of our secondary schools in the 2022 school year, and that we will look to continue to offer that this year and then expand that beyond into next year. And then one final note, we created a Black employee network as a result of our Dismantling Anti-Black Racism Strategy, Action 5.3, and it was established, it met 3 times last year, to provide input on the strategy and to consult with each other in a safe space. And myself or any members of the senior team are happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you very much for your report. Do we have questions? Trustee McKinley?
Yes, I'd like to ask about the summer learning program. I know we've had an exceptional summer learning program over the years, and it is built up because it's been so exceptional. But I'm dismayed by the fact that I've heard that the funding to our summer learning programs is being cut drastically. That bothers me immensely because of the value that our students get out of that. I guess that's my comment. I noticed there's a lot of great information in here about that summer learning program, and I think I would love to see our board send a letter of support for a continued funding level similar to what we've had. I don't like the fact that it's being reduced so much is going to impact our students. And I don't know what will come of a letter but I do believe we should at least send it. If we don't, it's saying that we're okay with those cuts, and I'm not okay with those cuts. So I don't know if we can agree by consensus to
I'll
send a
ask the
letter
tr-
in
I'll ask
support
the
of.
trustees. Do you agree by consensus, or would you like a motion? Sorry. Question on that, on consensus?
I would like to know what part of the budget that is that's been reduced, because we're just going into GSN consultations. It's not a GSN, it's a something else, I think. So it's an external grant, and I don't know if there's a submission deadline coming up that we could simply just go for that? Like, is it a done deal that we absolutely, for next budget, are not going to get funding?
Can we let administration respond first? Trustee McKinley?
I just wanted to highlight SEAC has already agreed to also send. Oh, sorry. SEAC has already agreed to send a similar letter, just for your knowledge.
Do administration wanted to speak to that? Superintendent Howitt?
Yes, thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Chair. So there's different pockets of money for summer learning. There was money that was provided and distributed for the ministry through code, and there is money that has been provided to the ministry for special education, different pocket of money, and there has been money that has been utilized from French dollars. And we have always also exercised the opportunity to use dollars from outdoor education money to enhance programming. So the money that was previously funded through the ministry, distributed through code, has now been folded into the GSN at an 80% reduction. So that's the significant change. Yeah, yeah. If I may add, we have already had precursor conversations, myself and Superintendent Raquel Roberts, about ways where we can, look where we can make things happen, even with the reduction because of the high quality of programming, although it would be fantastic to have additional commentary to support those dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Buckler?
And a couple of quick questions. The first one is Superintendent Mills.
Wait a minute. We're dealing with this issue.
Oh,
of
consensus, sorry.
Sorry. On the item of consensus to support our summer learning, we have more questions. Trustee Leclerc. Oh. Okay. Do we have consensus to send a letter to support the level of funding? We have consensus. So we will draft a letter. Trustee Sipcar, did you want to comment on that consensus? No. Okay.
Can we copy code?
We can copy everybody like we usually do. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So back to the director's report. First, we have Trustee Sipcar and then Trustee Buckler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I almost forgot my question. Through you to the director, firstly, thank you, welcome. And I hope this question doesn't throw you off script, but I was wondering more of the kind of your input on the operational plan in terms of what are some of the items that you are most excited about and maybe some of the biggest changes that you're seeing through this report that we can be made aware of as trustees.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Madam Chair. I think our operational plan is very robust. And I think as a senior team, this year we're really taking a look at it. What goals can we achieve? Are they always measurable? And to make sure that we can measure them so that we do have clear outcomes. And really focusing, and I think that Bill 98 will help to put some of those things in perspective around what are the areas that we need to focus in specifically. There are new pieces, in the legislation. There's a student achievement plan. It doesn't include an area for equity. Our belief, which will be very clear in our operational plan, is that equity will be embedded in all of the work that we do. So I think moving forward, it may be a little bit less than what we've done in the past to make sure that we are achieving the goals.
Thank you. Trustee Buckler?
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions for Superintendent Mills. With your math achievement, I just noticed, and it just surprised me, at the grade fours, the increase was very, very small. But then in grade five, the increase was 13 and 7%. And I was just wondering what is the difference and like what's happening there that's making such a difference?
I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One of the reasons when our director also mentioned that when they used a blended program, they met with some success. And then it really depended, because it was a pilot project, our numbers were limited. So it really depended on the attendance of the students as well. So attendance played into some of our numbers.
Okay.
Just for Superintendent Bryant, a real quick one. I see our Chromebooks are 2-to-1 right now. How close are we getting to one-on-one so we stop having to worry about that? Is there anything we can do or should be doing to help make it a little more equitable? Because even 2-to-1 isn't always the best for our students.
I think it's still a question of, through you, Madam Chair, sorry. I think it's still a question of funding. So the 2-to-1 ratio is high because of the pandemic, because more technology was put into the system because of the pandemic. We still have quite high ratios in the schools, but the 1-to-1 is going to be contingent on funding. And as with everything else, it's not an area that was funded appropriately for that yet.
Trustee Chin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director, for the presentation. Sorry, and I'm glad that you mentioned Bill 98 several times, and would like to make changes based on that. And in the Bill 98 of the provincial legislation, and it mentioned to put emphasis on quality of education and basic knowledge, and it also mentioned that we should involve parents and totally, and to enhance the parents' involvement in every, do our best to how to say that, attract the parents to come and to communicate. So I wonder, since we have some conflict before, and miscommunication between parents and the board, I wonder how in the future we want to improve the parents' involvement, and also since the knowledge, math and language skills are the most important part, has the most priority. And I see that the EDI part cost us a lot of, action steps, energies, monies, and I think those resources are limited. And overall we have the amount of money, and how we can, balance that and give most of the priority to the basic knowledge instead of the indoctrination of the kids. I'm not sure if this is a correct word, but I feel that we should make some changes, based on the provincial legislation. And thank you.
Sorry, was there a question there, Trustee Chin? Was your question, what are the changes with the legislation?
My question is that, first of all, how to get involved the parents to have better communication with the parents. Another is that how to balance the resources, and how, are we going to still to put a lot of resources on EDI issues or not? Thank you.
Director?
Thank you.
answer
Through
that?
you, Madam Chair. So you're correct. Bill 98 does have several pieces of legislation, and parts of that is specifically around communication with parents and being transparent. The Student Achievement Plan needs to be posted. The Math Achievement Plan needs to be posted and available to our parents and our community. So the transparency will be there. We're required 2 times a year to report out to our communities based on that achievement, specifically around reading, writing, and mathematics. I disagree with your comment around indoctrination. We do not indoctrinate children.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from trustees on the director's report? No? Well, congratulations on your first
Thank you.
director's report. M2 is the OPSPA director's report. Trustee Burgess.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I gave an in-camera report, and that was only around items necessary to talk about that in camera. But what I will say is that we've already had Board of Directors information sessions. There will be an upcoming Board of Directors meeting this Friday evening and all day Saturday, and I'll be attending on behalf of this board. Very full agenda. I received it today. Last couple of weeks ago, Friday, we held our policy development work group and education program work group joint meeting. And we had a great meeting and some ministry guests there. We talked about all kinds of things. One of the things that came to the fore, of course, was Deedon Prue was there, and someone else, I can't remember, from Capital Finance, Capital Branch, and talked about the changes under Bill 98 and what the ministry was looking for into this, I'm going to say cookie cutter designs, but, you know, standard designs for schools that are going to be pre-approved so they can be built fast and they're pre-approved. I can see the efficiency of that. I understand that, but if that were always the case, we would not have James L. Dunn, we wouldn't have David Suzuki, we wouldn't have Lakeshore Discovery, we wouldn't have John Campbell, we wouldn't have a lot of schools that we take great pride in because of adaptive reuse or our Greater Essex stamp on design. So there will be some political advocacy needed when we discuss a lot of the things that we have at Policy and Education Program. We did choose new chairs and vice chairs for those groups, and I was pleased to see Shelley Laskin for Toronto District School Board be chair for policy, and I was honored with being vice chair of that provincial group. Upcoming this November 4th, we will be having a Western regional meeting, and all trustees and student trustees are encouraged to attend. It's also a joint meeting. Every once in a while we have joint meetings of Central West and Western Region. So it's in Kitchener, and there have been accommodations made for the night before. It starts at 9 in the morning, so us being, you know, kind of 3 hours away or whatever. You may want to book Friday, November 3rd, but there will be it's a big agenda, and in the afternoon there will be some professional development that will follow the regional council meetings. So I strongly encourage, if you want to meet your colleagues from across, I think probably maybe 10 boards would be attending, if I think about the two regions. It's a great networking opportunity, and by then we will have had a couple of months of the school year underway and be just going into grants for student needs, consultations, that kind of thing, and it's that invaluable connection with other elected trustees across the province that often lead to really some great policy and advocacy. So I strongly suggest marking your calendar for November 4th. Thanks.
Thank you for that report. Okay, the next item on the agenda is M3. Those are reports from the Audit Committee. They're from myself as chair of that committee. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to direct them to Superintendent Armstrong, because we did this back in June. Trustee Burgess.
Page 49, Madam Chair, through you, on the report, so it's KPMG's report. It's not your memo. But it does refer to us as Greater Essex County District Catholic School Board. Under practitioners' responsibilities. So the audit committee might want to give them a wee heads
Yep,
up.
typo. Was that
It is a
corrected?
typo.
Yep.
But
Any other questions on the reports? No? Okay, thank you. Next, we have in our package a report on the condition of our school tracks. Are there any questions on that report? And just be mindful if it's a property item that needs to be discussed in camera, just be mindful of that. Trustee Sipcar?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I do have a number of questions.
Let's start with one.
Sure. I have them numbered, don't worry. So I'm very concerned with this report, both in terms of the process and the outcomes. Effectively, we are closing 4 tracks, 3 of them in our city, and we are replacing them solely with grass. My question is on process. Were there any public consultations conducted with the school community, the wider community, and or community partners about both the closure and or the facilities being renovated to not have a track?
Superintendent Armstrong?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. In terms of the decision to remove the tracks, there is no public consultation. It is a health and safety issue, and those tracks are unsafe. They're a liability to the board, they're a hazard to the public, and so they have been closed for 23-24 until they can be removed. That work can't even happen until the summer of 2024. In terms of asking the school communities about what they would like in terms of putting new tracks in, there's been no public consultation regarding that. The board does not have the money to put in and replace these tracks. There's just no funding or money to do that. Certainly, this is an opportunity by bringing this report in public session for members of the community to come forward.
We'll see if there are any other. I'll go on this side. I'll go down the row. Buckler, McKinley, and Burgess. Trustee Buckler?
And we had this discussion, I gave you the heads up, because I'd like to take a page from Leamington's book, and I understand the ministry doesn't fund tracks. We can't afford to fund tracks. I get it. But what makes me sad is we want healthy bodies, healthy kids, and then we're going to take away their tracks because we can't maintain them because we're not funded. But I'd love to take a page from Leamington's book and give our schools the opportunity to achieve the funding before we close before we sod over it, because once we sod over it, then it's a even more expensive fundraising that they'd have to do. But I know that community partners have been fabulous for the schools in our board. And if we could attain a few more community partners to help us out, I'd love to give them that opportunity. So I'd love to put the motion on the floor that we give the schools the opportunity, or at least to speak of, whether they want to fundraise or go to community partners before we close their tracks. Like give them a 3-month deadline to see if that's what they want to do or something, because I think you're talking in 2024, you want to start sodding them. So if we give them a deadline prior to your sodding date to get back to you as to whether or not they want to work to raise the funds, would that be amiable to my colleagues here, that we at least give the schools a chance?
So I can have administration address that. I would just also like to point out that we do have legal liability that whole time that it's under consideration for any injuries or whatever. Yeah. So Superintendent Armstrong wanted to speak to that.
Thank you. And please, I don't intend to come off cold and clinical. I'm a parent too. I completely do appreciate the value that communities place on having these facilities and these amenities available to students. I really do get that. The challenge that we have First of all, the value of the work here would need to go through a public procurement process, which is an RFP process, and that takes a period of time. And I can't even guarantee, despite the consultant's report, we've seen this so many times with other things we've put out for RFP where the cost comes in a lot higher. The reality is that they're not safe. And even though we've closed them because of the liability, we're worried about somebody getting hurt. You can put all the signs you want up in the world. It doesn't stop anybody still from going on them. So we really do, at a minimum, need to address getting the track removed and at least putting the grass down to make it safe. The Leamington scenario is wonderful. The problem is that, a couple of problems. One, you need to find a community partner. Two, there's an ongoing maintenance cost associated with these tracks. It's not just a donate one and you're done. It's they've got to be resurfaced. And I can use, we just resurfaced Sandwich Secondary School. That was $1.2 million. We've done TVA twice. That's $1.5 million. It's not little money, and we can't recoup all that through user fees. I mean, because community groups don't want to have to pay a lot of money to use the public facilities too. So there's a whole lot of challenges with this, and that's the problem. And they're just completely unsafe right now. So it's a timing perspective, it's a donation perspective, it's the ongoing maintenance perspective that all those pieces need to be addressed.
Trustee McKinley?
Thank you. Question around the replacing with grass. It doesn't say seed, so that's sod. My question though is, who's going to be watering the sod until that grass sets? Because otherwise that grass we'll paid for and it will be dead, because I don't know whose job it is to go out and water all the sod. But if it's not watered, it's money completely wasted. And we end up with a big mud hole, a circular mud hole all the way around the grass. So I am concerned about what really happens if we put grass in, because it's not magically going to set without any extra support. And I don't know what the plan is for that. Maybe we have special water containers like the city has that they water all of their flowers with. Perhaps there's some at the schools to do the same. I don't know, but I don't want it to be money wasted if that's the way we're going to go. It does sadden me, but I certainly understand the finances of it.
Do we have an answer to that on how they're going to be maintained?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I don't know that I've thought that far ahead in terms of that element of it, but your point is well taken. It would be something that I would have a conversation with Facility Services when we are doing the tendering for the work to remove the track.
Trustee Burgess?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I have a question. It's kind of captured in page 88 to 89, and it's about the to compensate for the removal of the track facilities. Number one, I think this is the right thing to do. They're already closed. That's not negotiable. That's a health and safety thing. That's, getting sustainable donations and sustainable endowments to maintain it is another thing. So we have to do something. It's closed. But I don't see anything suggested, and I'm thinking that there probably is going to be something, but something suggested to use. It says $100,000 for each of the 3 schools will be made available to supplement other the outdoor amenities, for example. And the examples are given for other capital things, kind of thing. Is there something to help in funding a portion of that 100,000 or maybe more to help transport students who are involved with certain activities that they would normally be using at the track? We saw Student of the Month today that, without having an opportunity to excel in all of those sports, would have a different trajectory for life? Would it have different happiness level? Would it have different opportunities for scholarship? This does lead to not only student well-being, it's student achievement as well, too, post-secondary pursuits, etc. So during this school year, is there any plan to use some funding, any portion of this or some funding to transport students to those other facilities that are still in good nick?
Strong, do you want to try and tackle that one?
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. So the $100,000 that we would use for enhancements to the schools that are impacted by this, we would be using school renewal allocation funding, which is capital funding from the ministry. And we're allowed to use a portion of that funding for maintenance related items and for health and safety related items. So that would be the capital component. Any costs associated with transporting students, and it's ironic because I had a question from a principal of one of these schools who inquired, and that would have to come from operational dollars from the board, right, or from a school budget allocation, which it's not large to start with, so certainly we would have to consider that as part of a budget allocation when we do our budgets.
Superintendent Owen, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention that in my athletic budget, I have a significant amount that goes directly for transportation for the students getting to places. And so the schools are offset as much as I can. And it varies for each school because some of the schools might have 3 or 4 teams that make OFSA, much more expensive. Other teams may not have a single team that makes OFSA, much less expensive. So I look at it, there's a percentage of the money that goes to each one of the schools for transportation, just for that reason.
Supplemental, ma'am?
Okay, supplemental.
Thank you for that answer. I appreciate that. And I would think that that's available for all, across the system. This just seems to be particularly punitive this year. So I'm just wondering this year if there's any way of adjusting where it's equitable, not equal, so that it's not for those maybe that are going to OFSFA or SWASA or whatever. It's for regular competition. It's for regular practice. It's like they don't get to do their track. They don't get to do their training. They don't get to do to even try to achieve to compete. It's restricted. So that's what I'm asking for. If there's something that is just for this year. It wasn't in our budget in June, but it just seems punitive.
I had a question yet.
Okay. So I hear that answer about the transportation, and thank you for that. But my concern is, and I'm right on board with Trustee Burgess, is that you have this budget that's been here for transportation, but now you have these new schools that aren't going to have their track to use, and so there's going to be more added to that, to the transportation. So I'm just wondering if that's going to cover it. My concern is what Trustee Burgess said also in terms of these kids losing an opportunity. Training is huge. We all know that. You have to train. You just can't go into a track meet and hope for the best. I just think that it's bigger than what, just closing a track. Like there's a lot of kids involved and a lot of futures that could be redirected because of this.
Could you just clarify in this discussion, is this the first school year for these track closures, so that the question that Trustee Burgess was asking and the point Trustee Cook was making is that this year is the first time that there could be a drain on that fund?
So this is the first, Madam Chair, this is the first year that we have said to those schools that those tracks need to be closed based on the condition assessments that we receive from the consultants. To be honest, I'm not sure how anybody used them previously. These tracks just didn't degrade immediately. Honestly, some of them are on the verge where it's just vegetation. There is no long jump pit. There's no anything. So I don't know how the students effectively used them before, or even if they were entirely, because they were not safe prior to.
Thank you. Trustee Chin for the first time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to echo some trustees. I think I feel shameful to know that the kids cannot use the track and fields because of the the condition of the field. We are in Canada. I think I cannot imagine that it happens here in Canada, and I just feel that it's so important. Physical education is also very important. It's part of the quality education and the student achievements. So I think we should put this in priority also, and do our best to find money to do that. Otherwise, I'm questioning the capability of the senior administration here. I just cannot imagine. Yeah, this should be a top topic now.
Madam Chair, not appropriate.
So I know.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Sorry.
so-
I'm sorry. If
I would ask you, Trustee Chin, if you would retract your remarks about our senior admin.
Yeah, I retract. It's not a target to you. I know it's not only our board. So that's my. I just feel that it's so important to provide this kind of opportunity for the kids to do physical education, and we cannot do anything else without doing this first. So stop wasting money. And put some money in this, track and field, and give the kids.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So, to the director.
So we're not stopping the physical education curriculum. That is still in place. Track is extracurricular, and I'd just like to clarify that.
For those trustees who weren't involved a number of years ago, I see this a lot like the very tough situation we had with regard to closing all our pools. I don't see this as being a whole lot different. There's no funding to maintain pools. The pools are very expensive. There's no funding from the ministry, and that tough decision had to be made to close our pools. I don't see this being a whole lot different. But I do have a number of speakers. For the first time, Trustee Nelson.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I just wonder if there's any alternative solutions to having the tracks closed, and whether we've spoken with any of the coaches to find out what the alternatives would be to help support those who are interested in track and field.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Certainly, we have not spoken to the coaches. We have joint use agreements with several of our municipal partners, and certainly we would be willing to try and reach out, for example, to St. Clair College or to the University of Windsor to see if there's an opportunity where we could utilize those facilities. We do have other tracks, and when I mean tracks, I mean proper IAF certified tracks. These tracks that we're talking about are asphalt. We do have other tracks in our system that would also be available for students to use, and that's noted in the report as well.
And I would like to add to that just like with the pools, I think that the coaches all know what the situation is. They know what their tracks look like. They know that they're unsafe. They know that there's no money. So it's not a whole lot different, again, from a situation we found ourselves in with the pools. But anyway, going back to the speakers list for the second time, Trustee Sipcar and then McKinley.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I don't think that this is just an issue of well-being or compassion. It's an issue of equity, in my view, in terms of access for students in our city. We will have 5 high schools in the city of Windsor that do not have tracks with it. And I don't know what that vicinity is, but I can imagine that, a student on the west side being able to get to Riverside to attend, to have any sort of track as an extracurricular would be next to impossible with the transit system that we have. I was fortunate enough to attend Sandwich Secondary School. They have a phenomenal track program because that has been invested in. And students in the core of our city cannot access that school by transit because it does not exist. And I appreciate that there is, quote unquote, no money, but my question is, why is this being brought forward as a report for information and it is not in the purview of the trustees to make budgetary decisions? I would ask previous trustees, were you approving those pool closures, or were they being brought forward for information?
They were brought forward for information.
If we decided to motion today to be able to keep one of these tracks open, that would be in order because it's allocating budgetary resources, correct?
We've already approved the budget.
I'm
but
just asking hypothetically to if we were to defer it to next year's budget. It's more of a procedural question than it is. I'm asking on the procedure of it.
For the following year's budget,
Yes, yeah.
I'm not sure how that would work, but does someone want to try and answer that from administration? Superintendent Armstrong?
Thank you for the question. Certainly, I think some of the challenge that we have is that we have deferred maintenance at the board in terms of high and urgent needs in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And I don't personally tell, and I appreciate you, the trustees approve the budget, but decisions on what priority items need to be addressed with the limited money we have with school condition improvement and school renewal, we rely on the condition assessment reports that are done by the Ministry of Education on our facilities, and we rely on facility services to make those determinations. Our school condition improvement funding fell by $4 million in 23-24, and our school renewal, fortunately, has stayed the same. But always the focus is when we spend that limited money is to focus on life systems. So we're looking at the PAs, we're looking at the sprinkler systems, we're looking at fire alarms, and then other things of a health and safety nature. But we have programming in schools where we need to replace science labs and home ec rooms. We need to replace roofs and windows because there are places where heat is escaping. We're trying to improve ventilation. So I appreciate all those concerns. And nobody wants to hear that it's just about money, but we have to make decisions on how we want to spend that funding. And we also have restrictions in terms of how much of the school renewal allocation money can be spent on maintenance items, which is only 30% of that money. The rest of the money has to be related to building systems and building envelope.
And I would just like to add from the letter that we sent to the ministry about our budget and our funding limitations that we have over $206 million in high and urgent needs for our school buildings, and we don't have that funding.
I have a motion that's coming out of the report, which I believe is in order.
Okay. Your motion?
Sure. And if I get a seconder, I'd like to speak to it. The motion is to conduct a public consultation on the closure and repurposing of Windsor Stadium without track facilities to be given both to the school community and to the wider community, and to bring the results of that consultation back to the board by January 2024 for determination about next steps for Windsor Stadium in particular.
We have, Trustee Cook has seconded the motion. Discussion on the motion. I would like to ask administration if that would be feasible within that timeline.
Through you, Madam Chair, I guess I would have to consult with facility services to make that determination, and I would have to speak with the school principal regarding that.
On the motion, Trustee Sipcar?
Thank you. I would like to just clarify my intention with it. I understand that our public dollar or for education right now are very strapped, and my intention with this is to have our community really give a say about what they value about that stadium. A, there's historical and heritage significance, but B, beyond that, what is the use of that space that could be reimagined? I don't necessarily think we absolutely need to have a track, although I would make an argument that we are track deficient and that there might be a strong argument for keeping it. But I would like, what I was really hoping for with this report was that there were options that we could feel good as a board of trustees in closing 3 tracks. And my point with it is that maybe had we worked out a joint use agreement, or we knew where those students were going, who was interested in track, what other tracks were available, what the plan was to basically, I think, mitigate this loss. And I understand these tracks were not in good condition, but that doesn't negate our responsibility of being forward thinking in that way. And so I really do want to hear from our community. I want to know what is available from our community partners. And I really do want that information alongside this report in order for us to be able to move forward confidently, whatever direction we go in.
On the motion, Trustee McKinley, I know you've been waiting a long time.
Okay, I've got a comment and also a question. So my comment is around the students. My daughter was an athlete. I know a lot of athletes. I took her for years, and I believe they still continue. They have programs for the elementary kids and high school kids that are very interested in track, that excel, that there's a lot of students that I'm sure are still taking part in those courses, those programs. They were after school. I would imagine the university is continuing those because that helps them see students and athletes that could come into their programming and, help get the university medals as well for doing well. So that's just the comment to that. Like, that would be where some of the students would be going for that additional training, because I've walked the path at Massey, and it's not safe to walk unless you are constantly looking for where you could trip in the grass. So now my question, and it kind of lines in with your motion, I was going to ask even before the motion, was out of curiosity, and I was a parent at Massey for years, where of those 4 schools had you checked with any principals to see, were any of those school councils working on saving money toward paving their tracks or not? Because that shows some community involvement.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I spoke with each school principal about the decision. No principal made mention of any school council that was fundraising for that specifically. There are schools that do have school-generated funds that have accumulated, but in terms of the intent for that, I'm not aware.
On the motion, Trustee Leclerc.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion, I'm torn. I'm very reluctant to support the motion because I go back to when I was chair. We made a significant public outreach at that time regarding Windsor Stadium. Alan Halberstadt, a former trustee, spent inordinate numbers of hours pushing the Windsor Stadium question. And I just don't know that having a motion to seek public, I mean, quite frankly, I don't know we need a motion for it. I think, look, if somebody's out there, they're interested in Windsor Stadium, step up because we're interested. We have been interested for the last, well, I'm in my 9th year. We've been interested for 9 years. If somebody's out there is interested, step up. Now's the time, because now it's in a report that this is what the board's going to do. I don't know that, reaching out to the public once again to say, or let's have a meeting with community partners to say this is what we're looking for is going to change anything. If somebody wants to step up, now's the time. You're on notice. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm sorry, Trustee Sipkar, but that's where my mindset is.
Point of clarification. I just wanted to clarify, maybe this is Trustee Halberstadt's ghost, but I'm not suggesting that we hold a public consultation to solicit community partners, although I think that hopefully this will draw attention to that. It's actually to ask the school community and the wider communities how they use the space. What would be the consequence? Like, are they in support of a closure? Could it be reimagined? We might be surprised by those responses, and I'm prepared to accept them. But I think it's just incumbent upon us to go beyond, the principal and also solicit the wider public.
Anyone else on the motion? Trustee Buckler?
I had a motion similar, kind of trying to ask if we could fundraise or do something. And as our superintendent already spoke with us, there's so many processes in place with the RFPs and everything that has to, that are, I don't think the layperson understands, I don't think the schools understand everything that she has to go through before we can do anything. So I think asking the public to try and reimagine it, they don't understand everything we have to go through to put something in a school. We can't just plop a playground in a school. We can't just plop a track down. There's so many processes that have to happen. And unfortunately, not many people understand that. They just understand that we're taking away something and we can't get it back because we don't have the funds.
Steve Burgess?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll support it, and the reason why is I think we're in the education business, so part of our job is to educate the public on what the public assets are. It's a public asset. It's in, disrepair. Yes, we've been talking about it for many, many, many years, and yes, anybody can step up at any time, always has been able to. But, we've just come out of a time where, things are almost back to normal, they're really, truly. And public consultations didn't really happen in the same way for a few years there. So having a new question and saying, what would you reimagine? This is a public asset. How do you see it? Do you think it's worth investing? Do you think it's worth, disposing of? I mean, what? I think that's a wise thing. I think this is the time. We have a report before us where there's a bit of a crossroads, it's on the list. So I think that's legitimate to ask the question. And I think as the mover of the motion has stated, we have to be willing to hear what they say. And if nobody comes forward and whatever, we hear that too. So I think it's timely.
Superintendent Armstrong?
Thank you. I'm happy to do whatever the board, I'm here to do what you asked me to do. I just wanted to clarify that with Windsor Stadium, we're not proposing to remove the track and give them $100,000. What the report is contemplating is to remove the track because it's completely unsafe. The light standards that are in the field are wrapped with gym mats because if a kid's playing football and runs into them, so it's removing and moving the lighting standards so it's in an appropriate location. It's fixing the grass. It is restoring the washrooms. It is fixing the grandstands as well. So it's not just nothing. I just wanted to kind of make sure that it was understood that while we were suggesting to remove the track, it was also to improve that facility for use as well by the community.
No, sorry, no. For the first time, anyone else? Trustee McKinley for the second time?
Yeah, I'm just, as a person who was a parent at Massey, whose kids went there, and also as a trustee, we've had many student trustees from Massey over the years that I've been a trustee. So, and over all these years, and I'm in the community, I'm going to schools, the track and its condition is never raised, is never brought up. When I sat on the council, it got spoken of briefly. This was 15 years now. My kids have been out of school. But there wasn't enough interest to drive the fundraising that would be required, because even if you started at a dollar value, by the time you would even get near that dollar value, that price would have already gone up. So for that reason, I guess because I feel like the public is aware, and they could have contacted me at any time over the years to say, hey, what can we do? Then I could have brought it forward saying, hey, I'm hearing in the community these concerns about that. And honestly, I have not heard them, and that's kind of sad. But that's why I'm mixed, but I'm not sure that public consultation in this particular situation is going to make a significant difference.
Anyone else for the first time? Colin, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I would definitely be in support of this motion. I think there's nothing wrong with letting the public speak and give their ideas and their vision. It can't hurt us in the long run. There are programs out there that do have funding. Essex has won the Aviva Fund twice now for things. They got bleachers at the high school. They got play equipment and a track at the elementary school. It is possible. I don't see anything wrong with putting it out there and seeing if there's an appetite or someone to take on the initiative before we make a decision like this, because at the end of the day, replacing it with grass is a lot of money too. So if there is a way that we can partner and make an improvement, I don't see any issue with that. Thank you.
Anyone else for the first time? Well, I will speak then. I'm just going to say I'm not sure about this one either. I guess I'm like Trustee Leclerc. I don't, and I agree with Trustee McKinley. It's not a big secret about the condition of Windsor Stadium. It's definitely not a secret in the community. And my concern is that we might be raising false expectations. And to me, that's very difficult for the community, where they come up with all kinds of ideas with some expectation that we can run with them. And the reality is that we can't. Or we would have done something with Windsor Stadium a long time ago, when it was, even before it was the heart's desire of former Trustee Halberstadt. You know, with the I go back to the closure of the schools. There was pushback from some communities, and there were meetings of the community to try and prevent the closure, but the reality was that there was no money. Bottom line, and the pools were closed, and our school system moved on. I don't know that put an end to any swimming program. We may still have swimming programs because they were using other facilities in the community. That's what happens. And I guess that's my biggest concern, is the raising expectations and not really having any clear parameters about what it is we're taking out to the public. I think we have to be realistic, which in my opinion would be fair to the public before you're going to open it up and ask them for input. And I think it's kind of like a really like blank check kind of approach to let's just get public consultation on what you want to see done with Windsor Stadium, which is my understanding of the motion. And I think with that, we're going to end up with maybe a lot of disappointment when the community, if the community does take the opportunity to speak up. I think there's been lots of opportunity for the community to speak about Windsor Stadium. I think there's been a lot of opportunity at any point for the Kennedy Collegiate community in particular to come to the board about their concerns about Windsor Stadium. But I think the message about the lack of funding is clearly out there in the community, especially the Kennedy Collegiate community, that is the one most closely associated with Windsor Stadium. So I do have a concern about raising false expectations and then disappointment. So that's just my remarks. Trustee Cook?
So I just want to say that, like, I'm really disappointed with some of the comments that were said about the pools. When the pools were closed, there was a fight. My family was involved in that fight. So community did show up. Did the pools close? Yes. Is it a change? You bet. There's people on the East End that can't go swimming. So don't tell me that people just go on. Because the fact is that people do go on, but they can't do what they want to do because a pool was closed. A trustee talks about one school and taking her family member to the university for track and field or whatever. Well, not every parent in this community has the luxury of a vehicle to get their kid there or the time. And I just think it's wrong the way that we are judging. And it makes me angry because this is going to change a lot of kids' attitudes, a lot of kids' trajectory in life. It's going to close tracks. I understand the money. I understand that. But to close even down what Trustee Sipcar said about Windsor Stadium, well, in the past, nobody spoke up. Well, you know what? We get what? Maybe 50 people listening. This isn't like, you know, WDIV where there's a whole bunch of people that hear about it. We need and we owe the public a chance to speak up. And we as a board should listen. Are their expectations going to get high? No, but you let parents know what this opportunity is about. That no, we can't do everything and we are limited, but parents need a chance to speak up. Students need a chance to speak. This is going to change the way students are active. It's not all students are going to have access to a track. I don't care what transportation we have. It's not going to be enough. We have special programs in some schools that kids want to attend, but they can't because we don't have transportation. So we owe it to hear from the public. We owe it to hear from our students.
Anyone else on the motion? Trustee Burgess?
Thank you for the second time. So on 88, page 88, the second to last paragraph, it does talk about the Windsor Stadium, and it does say exactly what the superintendent said. Administration has determined that a renovation, including removal of the track and replacement with grass together with a relocation of the lighting, restoration of the washrooms, grandstand, seating, blah, blah, 1.247 million will be undertaken in 2024. So there's been a lot of discussion. So through you, Madam Chair, the timeline of that, 2024 means, could be December 2024. It means implications in next year's budget, as well as this year. I am in support of this consultation. I'm not going to try to prejudge and say that there'll be automatic disappointment. I mean, disappointment seems to be the order of the day sometimes, but I'm going to say that if we actually put it out there that, look, this is the budget we have. We're considering it's a health and safety matter. It's linked to Kennedy School, but Windsor Stadium is anomalous in our system, you know, in that it's an unusual facility in lots of different ways. And it impacts even more than Kennedy. So I think that public consultation is great, and I think part of our thing is educating to understand what the possibilities kind of might be to prompt some things so that people aren't going to be necessarily thinking that it's carte blanche. You know, it's not a blank check. We have restrictions, and I think that can be conveyed. I think we can do that, and I look forward to having some feedback. And if disappointment comes, it'll come because we've consulted and we've made another decision. But this is an inequitable, and I'm hoping that we find a way this year, not just for extracurriculars, but like, I never thought of track as just extracurricular. It is. I thought it was part of the phys ed. I thought you had to kind of go out and, it can be indoors, eh? So, not every school has a track, but there seems to be an opportunity at every school in order to, get to another one or join a team or something. Not every school has a golf course, but there's golf teams. Like, there's a way of getting to another facility in order to have that experience. So I hope we make an effort in the meantime. My question was about timelines. Like, the 2024 will be undertaken 2024. Is that this budget year? Is it going into next, anticipated into next? What's the timeline for, because the changes at Windsor Stadium are different from the others.
My assumption was that this was happening in the summer of 2024 out of the current school renewal allocation funding.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, 2023-24 school renewal allocation, when the budget priorities were being determined by facility services, the money was set aside to do this work, assuming that it comes within that budget.
Anyone else on the motion before I call the vote? All those in support, Trustee McKinley? the
Sorry, could we
motion?
repeat the
Okay, trustee
motion? Thank
Sipcar.
you.
Sure, it is to conduct a public consultation on the closure and repurposing of Windsor Stadium without track facilities to be given to both the school community and the wider community, and to bring the results of that consultation back to the board by January of 2024 for determination about next steps for Windsor Stadium.
Sorry, did you say the closing of the facility? No, I thought you said the closing of
I said
Windsor
closure
Stadium.
and repurposing of Windsor Stadium.
The closing and repurposing of Windsor Stadium, not the track.
The closure, I could specify the closure of the track and repurposing of Windsor Stadium.
Superintendent Armstrong?
Sorry, I guess I'm confused, so maybe you can just clarify for me because the students at Kennedy don't have any outdoor space other than the front yard to do any athletics for football, for track, for soccer, for any of these items. So I'm confused when I hear about the closure or the repurposing of the stadium because that is their field in and of itself.
So I use the term repurposing to include, I forget what the exact page is in the report, the items that were mentioned. But so I can add of the track to clarify, to conduct a public consultation on the closure of the track and repurposing of Windsor Stadium. So then that's clear. Without track facilities was the next part, but I think it's fine.
I think we're getting a little bit confused here, but Colin and then trustee McKinley.
Can I
already
request a
called-
recorded vote on this as well?
I guess you can. Don't know why you can't. Trustee McKinley on the motion.
Just for clarification, trustee Sipcar, when you're talking about consultation, are you referring to consultation in all of those school communities or just primarily Windsor Stadium, the downtown community?
I can read the motion again. To conduct a public consultation on the closure of the track and repurposing of Windsor Stadium without track facilities to be given to both the school community and the wider community. I assume that would mean some kind of electronic survey that can be easily disseminated throughout the wider community. That's my intention with that. And,
So
and
it's
to
just
be clear,
limited to Windsor Stadium.
yes.
Okay. All those in, no. Trustee Burgess,
Support?
trustee Armstrong,
Don't support.
okay, trustee McKinley,
Oppose.
trustee Buckler,
Oppose.
trustee Cook,
Support.
trustee Leclerc,
Opposed.
trustee Nelson,
Support.
trustee Sipcar,
Support.
trustee Chin.
Support.
Where does that put us? Opposed. The motion's lost.
Student trustee
Student
Sarah
trustees
Mohammed didn't have an opportunity to have a recorded vote, even though it's non-binding.
Student trustees, you can vote.
Opposed.
And Colin.
Support.
The vote remains the same, so it's tied and it's lost. Thank you. Move on in our agenda.
Can I, excuse
So
me, can I
item-
make a motion, another motion? Yeah,
On the report, specific to the report.
yes,
And it's different?
yes.
Trustee Chin, what's your motion?
I want to make a motion to make a ad hoc committee to discuss and handle the track field closer issue.
I'm going to rule that out of order because it's not a governance item for the trustees.
Okay, okay,
It's not governance.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on. Thank you for all your input on from the trustees on that item. It's certainly important to the trustees, and I think I still believe that the community well knows about the situation at Windsor Stadium, and that certainly the Kennedy School community does. And if they are listening to this meeting, or if they are aware of this report, and do want to submit any input to the trustees, nothing that happened tonight has changed that. So any member of the community is free to provide input on this item. And I think it's important for the community to understand that it doesn't take a motion for the community to be able to provide input on anything that we do as a board. So I think it's important that the public understands that. Okay, we're moving on to M5, the chair's report. I just wanted to repeat the greetings that I sent out to our system on the first day of school. I don't think trustees are aware that I sent anything out, and a lot of staff may not have read my remarks, so I'm going to use my chair's report to share that message. So on the first day of school that morning, I sent out a message that says, "I'm very happy to be able to welcome everyone to the beginning of a new school year. It's particularly exciting with our new Director of Education, Vicki Houston, in place to provide strong educational leadership for our school board. Every school board has its own unique identity, perhaps with some new challenges, like we've just experienced, but also fresh opportunities for staff to support student success. I hope that this new year starts with excitement and enthusiasm that continues throughout the next 10 months. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I wish you all the best this year as we work together to overcome any obstacles and celebrate our achievements. I am personally committed to supporting all our employee groups in any way possible to ensure the best possible outcomes for our students and staff. I'm feeling very optimistic about our ability to provide excellence in public education by creating confident learners, engaging diverse communities, and demonstrating ethical stewardship of our resources. This is made possible by the hard work and dedication of our staff, for which I am very grateful." And I signed off, "I remain GECDSB proud." So that's the extent of my report for tonight. And with that, we can move to trustee question period. Questions? Trustee Burgess?
Thanks, Madam Chair. And thanks for that greeting. That was great. So we are in a new school year, and in this year of transition of being the last regular school year for the buildings that are Kingsville District High School and Kingsville Public School and Jack Minor Public School, and I know the wider French immersion parents that have kids reside, they live in other school boundaries, but they go to immersion programming, for example, at KPS and KDHS. And then the Harrow Public School grads, of course, too, are looking forward to the new facility that's being built. So in this transition year, I would just like to know what are the timelines for the transition committee to be struck, the naming, the mascot, all of that to put into place. I know that there are some things underway already for alumni to have the last hurrah at facilities, but and Migration Hall as well, being a facility of KDHS. So what are the timelines? What can the Kingsville family of schools and Harrow parents expect this year?
Is that one? Superintendent Allender.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Chair. Sorry, I can't see it there, around Shelley. We're right now, Scott Scantlebury just put together a list of the area that we usually start off with different things that represent the particular area, and that's sort of the first part of our naming process. What we're actually waiting for, although we may not be able to, is I believe that the naming policy is under review right now, if I'm not mistaken. And if it is, we can still go with the old one, or we wait for the new one. And so we're hoping to get going, starting the process at about the first week or two of October. Okay.
Okay, any other questions from this side of the room? Under trustee question period? Trustee McKinley? Okay, this side of the room, trustee Chin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wonder if I can ask this question. Can we make a call for public bids to those, track and field projects? And because I think it's too expensive. And I wonder if we open to the public, call for public bids for those projects and see if we have chance to lower the cost.
So I'm not sure what you're asking, but we had public consultation on our budget. Oh, no, we have strict rules on how we put those out. Superintendent Armstrong might want to explain it.
Of course, thank you. Because the value of the service that we would be requiring exceeds $100,000, we would have to publicly tender that work through a public procurement process. And so a tender would be issued, and any organization would be willing to or is able to bid on that work. And so there's very specific rules and guidelines that are articulated in the policy and in the regulation for procurement. But it is through a public process and a tendering process that's competitive.
Okay, supplemental?
Yeah, I mean, if we can make it wider, published wider, so more people will, get involved in that and see if we can lower the cost. Because normally, the formal bid process does not attract much, many, tenders. And I think if we expand the advertisement and call for more organization to join, maybe we have better bids. Because I feel painful that those kind of road is not very, not very sophisticated job. And I think a lot of, organization can do that.
Superintendent Armstrong?
Certainly. So just supplemental to that, when we tender the work, it's not through a process where, say, we're posting something on our board's website or through a newspaper ad. We're actually posting this through like a public procurement Ontario website, so that anybody in the province, in theory, can look at that work and can tender the work. Some of the challenges with getting some tenders is if somebody's from out of town, it's not always the cheapest to bring them in to do the work, because you have to deal with the fact that they're long distance or they may not be willing to come to Windsor to do the work. But certainly everything that we post is through a public bid portal that all Ontario school boards and other public sector entities would use.
Any other questions from any other trustees before I move on? Seeing none, notice the motion. Seeing none, any announcements for this meeting? Seeing none, I will just put out a reminder that because the our new term, starts in November, not December, like it has been forever. I just wanted to bring your attention to the changes in our meeting dates. So, for example, the first Tuesday in November is a board meeting, not a committee meeting. The first Tuesday in December is also a board meeting and not a committee meeting. So I just wanted to put those reminders out there that those changes have impacted our typical schedule. I think that's the only announcement I have. Anybody else? No other announcements? Then, having reached the end of our agenda, I will thank everybody for their time this evening and declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.